Hello, 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 hello. Okay, it's working. Everything's working.
Good.
Fingers crossed it goes well this time. Thank you again so much for taking the time to do this again. Um, so since
Well,
we
you were
last,
playing Swans on Glass, so we thought we'd better come back.
thank you.
And then I heard you play Face of Wood as well, whilst it was all going really pear-shaped.
You're not in the screen.
Yeah. I have so many questions about all these songs, but I wanted to kind of go back a little bit because we were talking about so many interesting things. So just from the beginning, this is Mona here on WFMU with Robbie Grey and Mick Conroy of Modern English. And you guys are on the road for a new tour and you have a new album that you're working on, but I wanted to start from the beginning. It's such an amazing way, the way everything happened, kind of so like it feels like it was really magical the way everything worked out. You started, you made the demo, and you said your first gig was with Adamant and Susie. Who was the opener on that one?
We were
Good.
Adam Yan second and Susie third, wearing her thigh-length boots and swastika armband.
Oh my God, you were at that one. That was that era. That's amazing. And you had your demo and you gave that to John Peel, and he was an early supporter, and you signed on with 4AD. How was it working with them from the beginning?
4AD, it was good. I mean, Ivo was the person we were kind of under Ivo's guidance. There was Ivo and Peter, but Peter had his kind of bands like Bauhaus, and Ivo worked mainly with us. I mean, in those days, Ivo and Peter, one thing that they wanted to let bands do was develop. There was hardly any pressure put on us. We were allowed to do basically whatever we wanted to do. And luckily, Ivo he liked what we were doing. And, we just, it was, there was no kind of like real kind of like a schedule, a massive master plan. It was just develop and see how it goes.
I mean, we signed a 5-album deal. That's how far into the future they were looking. And it was just everything in England at that time was going, that way. You had Factory Records, Mute Records, 4AD in London. That's just what was happening. And there was lots of bands trying to get deals, and there's lots of record companies, independent record companies, springing up everywhere. It was really exciting time. So to be part of that was pretty special, really.
I mean, also in those early days, it's like 4AD as the decades went by. 4AD is quite a famous record label, but at the very beginning, Ivo still struggled to get people on the press, Sounds, Enemy, and Melody Maker to pay attention, because as far as the music weeklies and monthly magazines that were concerned, 4AD was just another independent label. There were quite a few independent in fact there were hundreds of independent labels going around in those days.
It's amazing. It seemed like such an exciting and creative time, like the community that you were around and working with.
We had in the office there was Nick Cave, with the birthday party, the Cocteau Twins with, Robin and I mean, it was just bands all over the place.
Wolfgang Press were
Gene Loves Jezebel. I mean, there were so many bands from that time that were part of that office, because there was Situation 2, Beggars Banquet, 4AD, and each of these labels had a couple of bands each. I mean, Gary Newman was on Beggars Banquet, and his first album did so well that it sort of financed 4AD, really, because they shot off from Beggars Banquet and started their own thing. So it was just a really creative time, and you didn't have to be a great musician then either, because nobody was really.
I don't know. I think the early singles even were really fantastic. So give yourself some credit.
No, but that wasn't through being musicians. That was through just the concept of listening to sounds and developing bits and pieces of music, not knowing how to write songs, really.
I mean, one of the bands who were on, so Ivo and Peter, they went their separate ways, but still shared the same desk. Peter Kent started a label called Situation 2, and one of the first bands he signed were the Associates, and another group he signed were called Southern Death Cult, who of course morphed into kind of like mega rock god status, the Cults. I mean, it's like if in those days, these young lads from Bradford, if anyone had told them in 10 years' time you'll be selling out Madison Square Gardens, doing like AC/DC type mega stadium rock,
and you'll be taking your shirt off, wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
So who?
So I mean, there you go.
So who were some of your influences at that time, like music-wise and art-wise? And you mentioned Diane, you were going to use a Diane Arbus photo for your early artwork. Which photo actually was that? I was dying to know when he said that.
The Gathering Dust sleeve.
Yeah.
That photo, that is Diane Arbus.
Oh, it is. Oh,
it's like
amazing.
He sort of developed his own artwork on top of it, really.
Wow. And so actually a listener had a question about Gathering Dust. Was that a reference to Marcel Duchamp?
No. No, it's a reference to the band, really. At the time, we were just trying to figure out where we were going and what we were doing. It was a reference to that, really.
That's so interesting. It's by single 2 already feeling like you were gathering dust.
Well, bands do.
I mean, I do want to talk about, like, speaking of the cult and like these kind of propelling into superstardom, like I feel like to go from such indie kind of I guess more artistic, I don't know, some of these references that you bring, and then to go from that to like Burger King and Valley Girl, and like just like that song is so ubiquitous, like everybody knows that song. So I mean, that must have been quite a I mean, you tell me, how was that for you with
I mean, when we wrote I Melt With You, it was basically just to be part of the LP After the Snow. It was just one of the collection of songs, and it came out in then, as we said the other day, we signed to Sire, Warner Brothers, and Seymour Stein, and we still weren't aware of how popular the song was, even at that stage in America. And we came over to play at spring break, and in springtime, obviously. And I Melt With You was still part of the set that we'd played about 4-5 weeks beforehand at the Institute of Contemporary Arts in London. And so I Melt With You is like number 7 in the sets, and it was just another song. But when we played in Florida at spring break, we put it in the set at number 7, and we started to play it, and everything completely and utterly erupted, there and then. And it was like, oh, okay, we were flabbergasted at what was going on.
When we arrived in Daytona, they said to us, "Do you want to play outside?" We didn't know anything about any of this stuff. Outside to 10,000 people on the beach, and we were like, "What? Play on a beach?" Or inside to like 3,000 or 4,000 people, and we'd never played outside, so we kept in our comfort zone, and we played inside. So you can imagine what Mick's saying is, when we started to play I Melt With You, the place, you could hear everything. Everyone was singing it, and we were like, "What's going on here?" Because they'd started playing the track on import on the major radio stations when they had some, and we didn't know any of this stuff, really. We didn't know anything about America, to be honest. I mean, we're getting off the plane in Florida with big long coats on. It was all a new journey for us that has lasted up to now, really.
And I think round about that time, MTV were playing it as well. So that was obviously had a big effect on people.
But we were still the same people. It's not like we went from being artistic people, listening to Bach or whatever and looking at paintings, to not doing that. We were still doing all that stuff. It's just we got commercial in America. It went mainstream. That's all that happened, really. That song went mainstream. The concerts became more mainstream. It was nothing different, really, about us.
Did you feel pressure, like that kind of juxtaposition of art and commercialism? Was there extra
No,
pressure?
not really. We never felt it was really ourselves felt any different. It's just that we had a hit song. You know, we didn't think, oh, this is terrible. We better go back home and cry and be mopey, you know, and watch the rain out the window and listen, you know, like Chekhov, read Chekhov. No, we you know, we were happy with it. Of course we were. Our backgrounds were all really poor people.
Yeah.
So what was happening to us was really nice and great.
I mean, plus the fact, but by this time we'd pretty much already recorded half of Ricochet Days, the follow-up album, and which absolutely had no bearing whatsoever to I Melt With You. I mean, we just carried on doing what we were doing. Again, this is at 4AD. Ivo just you know, said carry on doing what you do. You know,
and we still do that now, really. Yeah. I mean, the new album 1, 2, 3, 4's got no bearing whatsoever on After the Snow. I mean, it's much more spiky and noisy again, and there are songs on there that are crafted. Like there's one song called "I Know Your Soul," which is probably the closest to something like "I Melt With You" in that sort of feeling to it. But I don't know. We just write music and play what we like, really.
That's awesome. That's a great place to be. I think a lot of bands do end up feeling like tremendous pressure after success, that they feel like they have to keep that up, maybe whether the pressure's coming from the label or.
It's always, in those days, it would definitely be coming from the label. Because, you know, who wouldn't want to have another hit like I Melt With You sort of thing? If, you know, all those millions of dollars that are pouring into their pockets, they wanted more of it. But it's really hard to do that. If you sit down and try and write another song the same, it's virtually impossible.
Yeah. It's interesting too that it was so popular and it's such a kind of dark subject, like about the nuclear war, and it's beautiful, but it's like usually you don't hear too many pop songs about like literally melting.
No, I think it might be the delivery of it as well, though, because the producer Hugh Jones just said talk into the microphone kind of thing. And because I'd always been shouting on Mesh and Lace and all the early stuff, and I was a bit scared of it all, really, and I just did it, and it comes across like someone, you know, not too sure, and that's got something to do with it, and the lyrics are really good, you know, so those two, you know, the lyrics and the way it was done, sung or talked, it's got a lot to do with it. It only really gets melodic in the chorus.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. How was it working with Seymour Stein, by the way, with Sire?
Bloody hell.
Seymour, he was recently he died, and I was asked to, you know, write a small, you know, couple of paragraphs, and I said, well, pretty much everything I know about him is unprintable.
Yeah.
But he was an absolute character.
Yeah, I mean, they don't make him like that anymore.
He was a champion of new music as well. I mean, apparently he came up with the expression, the term "new wave," to, you know, to describe what was going on after the punk rock explosion happened. But he had a great, you know, it sounds a bit kind of schmalmy, but he did have he had a great ear, but he also knew what looked good as well. He was really into you know, the whole package. I mean, he signed up some amazing bands.
He signed up a lot of the British acts.
Yeah.
You know, pretty much the swag bag full of them kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I just remember driving the wrong way down a one-way street in London, him driving and us lot, like, well, everyone was drunk, you know, and it's just thinking, this is great.
He almost crashed into a wall.
Yeah. We had some brilliant times.
No, it was a great day.
I do want to talk a lot about 1, 2, 3, 4, even though like people can hear versions of it online. Like the KEXP session you did was fantastic. Yeah. And are you playing new stuff live as well?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're already playing Crazy Lovers and Long in the Tooth, which is going to be the first single, which comes out, I think, 12th of September. So you'll be able to download and stream and all that other stuff, you know, for Long in the Tooth on the 12th of September. And then the album's supposed to come out early next year. January, February. But what we're doing, it's all new to us, by the way, is we've got this QR code we're going to be using, which people can put their phones up to, and it will take their emails and we'll send them all the details of everything that we're going to be doing. So we've got cards printed that I'm going to be handing out from the front of the stage.
My card.
Hey, don't forget to put your phone on that, love.
Is it weird putting out music today versus like even the
That's
last album?
I never thought I'd be doing that in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's exciting now. Like there's a lot that you can use to your benefit with the way things work, even though it's kind of
Well, it is, in some
strange.
ways, it's not that different to Science 4AD in a lot of ways, because it's all explosions of things. You know, that was all new at the time. This is all really new. So in that way, you cottage industry, you know, that's what 4AD was, cottage industry. It's not that different in some ways, but it is strange that everything just goes down this one thing, the phone, you know, social media, online, you know, everything's in one place, whereas before things were all over the place. You know, it's different.
I mean, we will be releasing the album on vinyl, you know, we still have Chris Bigg, who is like Vaughan Oliver's #2 for over 20 odd years, and Chris worked with Vaughan, particularly on all of the Lush LP covers. You know, Chris was the person that came up with the logos, and when Vaughan died, we had some work that we needed to get finished. Chris finished it, and it just was the natural progression for Chris to carry on doing our new arts as well.
That's awesome. I was going to ask who had done the new one. I love the aesthetic, and you worked with Mario McNulty on the new album as well. How was that?
Yeah, he's a really amazing engineer. We went to a studio up in Rhinebeck in upstate New York, and watching him twiddling the knobs and getting sounds he was really good. But when it came to mixing, I think we wanted an English mixer because it's just different. There's just different looks and sounds that people use. We ended up using a friend of Mick's and ours back near where I live in Suffolk, and he remixed everything. Chenzo Townsend.
Yeah, Chenzo Townsend.
He mixed everything. So, and it sounds absolutely amazing.
Kind of leaps out the speakers.
It's really lively.
And who's releasing the new material?
We are.
Oh, I love that. Self-releasing.
Yeah.
Good. Take it
That's
back.
what I mean. It's like signing to 4AD. 4AD, we're just putting things out on their own.
Yeah.
It's no different in some ways.
Yeah, I think the whole label, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but like the label model, I guess, is kind of out of date now, that you don't necessarily need that anymore. If you have
they're still they're still safe. You know, the real labels, the ones that exist that everyone knows, they're safe. They're not sure about taking stuff on that's out of the norm for you know what. There's the acts you hear, say in England, you've got Radio 1, Radio 2. There's a few radio stations. What you hear on Radio 1, you can turn it on, off, listen, come back on in an hour's time, and it sounds like the same song. You know, I don't know how to explain it. It's just homogenized music, really.
Whereas when I'm in England, I listen to Six Music, which is without a shadow. It's kind of like when it first started, it was a bit like 24 Hours of the John Peel Show.
Yeah,
and even one of the the star presenters is the guy that used to be the guitar player in The Fall years ago, Mark Riley, and there's they have a lot of musicians who present the shows.
And then there's stuff, you can't be bothered with what you're hearing, so you're doing your thing. You know, that's good. You know, that's what it's all about, being independent.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the listeners wanted to know how your musical community has evolved over the years.
What does that mean?
Musical what?
Community? What do you mean?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure exactly what they meant, but I'm assuming they mean like the bands and I guess the community that you were with when you were first starting. And do you have that kind of community?
I've played in quite a few other groups over the time. I used to be in at the very beginning a band called Stereo Lab. I was the keyboard player for them, and they I mean, Stereo Lab in itself was a musical community, a bit like the Fall. You know, they've had about 58 members come and go in that band. And then I played with a group called Moose, who did about 5 albums. And recently I played with Lush. I did their final concert. And then after the Lush last concert, me, Mickey, and Justin, the drummer from Elastic, who's in Lush, we formed another band called Piroshka, who signed to Simon Raymond's record label. And Simon Raymond, the fact that he has a record label and he's one of our oldest friends.
And he was in the Cocktail Twins, so, you know, when we were in the office in 4AD.
So he was in the Cocktail Twins. So you could say that Simon Raymond is the boss of the musical community.
But it's also, when we would play Cruel World, for instance, backstage was Echo and the Bunnymen, Gary Newman, you know, Gang of Four, all English, ABC, you name it. It was all just Brits, you know. So that community is still alive, really.
Yeah.
Still super popular in the UK as well, because I feel like the
definitely
fascination with it.
Yeah, especially bands like the Bunnymen. They're really, you know, still popular. ABC are slightly more commercial, I'd say. I don't know about them. They'd be more likely to play sort of cabaret stuff.
But Gang of Four going on tour in the UK in October, and I know there's, you know, a lot of people are, you know, really excited about seeing, you know, the original singer and the drummer Bruno.
I had a chat with him at Cruel World, the singer, and we got on really well. We're hoping to do dates together. I don't know whether it will happen or not, but I think it'd be a good bill.
Absolutely. And speaking of the tour, you guys will be playing New York the day after this is airing. So that's
right. Yeah. Well, tell bloody people to get some ticket sales going. We haven't sold enough tickets for New York. It's terrible.
I'm shook because that is like a small venue for you. So I think it's just people aren't aware, but we will make them aware that this is happening. It's such a cool venue.
That's the old Pyramid Club, which we remember from the 80s, you know, when New York was mental.
Yeah.
It's kind of mental again, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you went the AM PM Club, the Berlin Club. We used to do concerts at the Ritz or wherever, and then that would be midnight, and we go to the club had only just opened, you know, and then we come out at dawn, get into a taxi, and go back to the hotel. New York was amazing there.
But I mean, there's, you know, Save the Robots and Max Fish used to be quite a good place.
Times Square was everyone was scared to go there because of the bars and the strip joints. Now it's got seating, so you can sit in the middle of it. It's crazy.
Truly.
Everywhere. London's not that different.
No.
Really?
Yeah, everywhere's changed so much. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like New York has gotten a little grittier again. Like when I first moved here, everybody was like, it was so scary in the 70s and 80s. Like it's Disneyland now, but it's pretty gritty again.
I mean, I have an apartment in Chelsea in Manhattan, and you know, we were away for so long, you know, during COVID, and it's like now it's you know, people in that neighborhood are complaining that a lot of shops closed down. People went out of business during COVID, obviously. So now it's loads of smoke shops appearing everywhere.
Vape shops, something like that.
No, dude, selling weed.
Weed, so everywhere. Everywhere you go in America, you smell weed. I go in my bedroom, I lay down on my bed and I smell weed.
Not so bad.
No, not really.
But I mean, it's quite an interesting time in New York City, I think, now, because it's kind of watching how it's going to come back after, you know, the massive lockdowns and people going out of business.
Yeah, it's strange. All around the world, really. All around the world is pretty weird. I mean, not, you know, even where I've got a house in Thailand, everywhere closes really early. It used to be everywhere closed really late. Now it's really early, like 9 o'clock in the evening. You know, you can't get a meal anywhere. It's weird.
That's so cool. I love Thailand. What part of Thailand do you have?
It's a small. Do you know Koh Chang? It's quite a big. It's not the side that's commercial. It's near the Cambodian border, and it's called Koh Mak, and it's just a tiny little island, and there's no kind of sex industry stuff there or anything like that.
Or high-rise buildings.
No, there's nothing there. There's only 2 roads on it. So it's really like just a place to go and chill out, you know. Very nice.
So beautiful there. Mick, another listener, Patrick from Brooklyn, you were mentioning about working with Lush and Piroshka. They wanted to know how your experience is working with them.
Lush was one of the most peculiar things I did, because I was an emergency bass player. They did that reunion tour, and about, I don't know, 7 years ago. This is time flies.
I think it was 7.
Yeah. And Phil at the end decided that he'd had enough, and I mean, we've known Lush forever.
They're just friends,
yeah,
aren't they?
And Phil didn't want to do. They had some commitments that they had to do for some gigs, and Phil just didn't want to do it. So I, even though I knew their songs, I had to learn 23 songs to play once only.
Wow.
But I might be doing some more stuff with Mickey later on this year. She's I mean, it's good for Mickey. She's actually she took so much time off, and she's enjoying playing music now. But she
wrote a book, didn't she?
Yeah, she wrote a book, and she has something called the Mickey Buenyi Trio, which is quite a cool name. And basically, the trio could be me and Rob tomorrow,
and somebody else the next day.
Yeah. So it's still fluid. But after that Lush gig, it was Justin, the drummer, he is one of the most enthusiastic people. He could be in a room for 2 minutes with someone and form 5 bands. He said, "Let's carry on," and it was basically Justin who got the whole Piroshka thing going, and that I mean, we did 2 albums, and we got Moose in the band. He's married to Mickey, and who used to have his own group, so everyone knew everyone, and it was just
it's very incestuous, you know.
Yeah. It was just and Simon put it out. It was like, who else is going to put it out? But it was it's good fun. It was it was loud and slightly chaotic. being in a band is like normally.
Yeah, it goes back to the musical community question again. So well, if you're just tuning in, we've got Robbie Grey and Mick Conroy of Modern English, and they're playing tomorrow night at Baker Falls, aka the Old Pyramid Club here in New York. And what can people expect from the live show?
Early songs to start. Some noise will definitely be interested, in starting the show with a lot of noise. Bit of everything really. Bit of Mesh and Lace, bit of early singles. We're even going to play a track from the Never Heard "Take Me to the Trees" album.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to play Moonbeam from that, and then we'll be doing quite a lot of new stuff from the new 1, 2, 3, 4 album, and of course we'll be playing that song, "I Melt with You" and "Hands Across the Sea." But we'll be playing "Swans on Glass" for you.
Yay! That's so awesome. Another fan, Jeremy, wanted to know, like, do you enjoy playing some of the deep cuts live? Is that still fun for
What's
you?
a deep cut?
Face of Wood would be.
Yeah. We're playing "Carry Me Down" at the New York concert. I mean, that's about as deep as we get. Yeah, I like playing all of it. I like playing Gathering Dust, 16 Days, and all that stuff. Because that album sort of, I don't know, is special to me, that Mesh and Lace album, for some reason. I think it's because we recorded it on our own with Ivo in the room, and Ken Thomas, who was part of Throbbing Gristle, was sort of twiddling the knobs on that one. And we did it all in 2 weeks, and we were young, and nobody had sore hips or anything then, and it was just brilliant fun.
That's
rattling film cans, in a vocal booth on the back of 16 Days and stuff like that.
I mean, when we recorded, I mean, we've been listening to these songs quite a lot lately because we're playing them live. But we realised that sometimes parts go round 5 times, purely because we made a mistake in the studio. So it's like that chorus is 5 times round now, and we still kind of play it the wrong way.
I love the version that you did as This Mortal Coil as well, the 16 Days Gathering Dust, like not medley, but it like fades into each other.
The
Yeah.
one with Liz Fraser.
Yeah.
That was Mick and Gary played.
Yeah.
Gary McDowell, the guitarist,
That-
played on that.
Again, that was Ivo. You know, he just we played. He came to see us in New York, and we did 16 Days in Gathering Dust as an encore, and played them, segued them together. And Ivo asked us to re-record it, but we were doing Ricochet Days at the time, and it was basically we just didn't really have time. So Ivo just asked Liz and Robin and Martin from Colorbox and me and Gary. We were just there to kind of put down the backing tracks, and then Liz and Robin put all of their Cocktail Twins stuff on top, and of course that led to Song to the Siren being recorded, and that gave birth to the massive, This Mortal Coil thing that Ivo.
And then I did the
on.
Colin Newman song, Not Me, which was the only track on that album with drums on it. I mean, everything else, was the ethereal Mortal Coil.
Yeah.
And then I really enjoyed doing that. And I had to do that in one day. And I had to literally go to the studio, do the song, get on a plane and go to LA the next day. It was wild. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for taking the time. You guys have made some of my favorite music of all time, and I'm so excited to get the opportunity to talk to you twice. Thank you for doing this again after the first.
Thank you,
yeah, exactly. People should be checking you out. Where do you want them to follow you and get this new single? Do you Instagram, Twitter, your website?
Well, the website is called modernenglish.me, modernenglish.me. And when you go there, there's like links to Instagram, Facebook. I mean, Facebook and Instagram.
I'm sure there'll be that barcode or whatever you want to call it, QR code. That'll be up on everything soon enough.
Yeah.
I'll be handing out cards tonight. Don't you worry.
And hopefully the screen will be working and pointing to the screen.
I love it. Well, congratulations on another phenomenal album, which 1, 2, 3, 4 people should be watching for. And I love that song, your first single as well. So Long in the Tooth. Thank you again, and have a great tour.
All right.
See you.
Hopefully we'll see you on the night that we'll come along. Come and say hello on the night we're playing if you get
I would love to. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Say hello.
I will, absolutely. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.